The illusion of revival, Trump's tariff gamble and the corporate exodus. Donald Trump's proposed 200% tariff on companies like John Deere for moving production overseas wasn't just economic policy, it was an attempt to reshape American manufacturing and, by extension, American society. His vision was a return to industrial glory, factories roaring back to life, jobs flooding into towns hollowed out by globalization. His rallies were charged with that hope. But that dream didn't just fade, it was abandoned. John Deere and Ford were supposed to be the comeback story. Instead, they expanded operations overseas. Deere shifted production abroad. Ford quietly moved key manufacturing out of the U.S. And Trump? He lost control. His threats became desperate. His tariffs backfired. Communities built on steel and soil began to question everything. The broken promise. American farmers and factory workers, Trump's base, now feel betrayed. The promised manufacturing renaissance hasn't just stalled, it's dead. And the people who believed in it most are the ones paying the price. The fight was never just about jobs. It was about trust, identity, and survival. Deere's move abroad wasn't rebellion, it was strategy. Faced with global pressures and the need to stay competitive, the company had been planning international expansions long before Trump's tariffs. Factories in Brazil and India, automation in Europe, partnerships in Asia, Deere had diversified. Tariffs didn't stop that, they confirmed Deere's decision. Betting on US-only manufacturing had become too risky. Trump framed the move as betrayal. But Deere's loyalty was to its survival, not political theatrics. His threats revealed something he didn't expect: Washington's power over multinational giants is waning. Ford's silent departure. While Trump raged about tariffs and foreign threats, Ford quietly pulled away. There were no press releases, no fanfare, just action. The company expanded EV production in Mexico, formed new partnerships in Vietnam, and scaled back U.S. investment. The move wasn't political, it was mathematical. Cost structures, labor expenses, and supply chains made U.S.-only production unsustainable. Trump had cast himself as Detroit's savior. Ford's exit struck at the core of his narrative. This wasn't an attack from abroad, it was a quiet revolution from within. The loyalty test fails. Trump believed corporations would respond to loyalty, threats, and shame the way voters might. But Deere and Ford didn't blink. When pushed, they chose strategy over submission. And once they showed it could be done, others followed. General Motors looked to South Korea. Caterpillar expanded in India. Whirlpool shifted to Poland. Trump's loyalty test revealed a deeper truth: America no longer commands the same gravitational pull in the global economy. The old ideas of corporate patriotism and presidential influence are crumbling. In boardrooms, survival, not sentiment, wins. The Iowa meltdown. Then came the Iowa rally, a supposed show of strength turned political earthquake. Trump announced a 200% tariff on Deere equipment made outside the U.S. and a 25% tariff on all imported Ford vehicles. But Iowa is John Deere country. Ford country. These brands aren't just logos, they're lifelines. The reaction was immediate. The crowd grew quiet. Conversations turned anxious. Farmers called home to ask about costs and orders. Could they afford a tractor that now cost 30% more? Would their harvest even survive the season? Corporate titans versus presidential rhetoric. Ford and Deere didn't flinch. They had prepared for this. Contingency plans, alternative shipping routes, legal strategies, everything had been mapped out. By the time Trump called for punitive tariffs, they were already finalizing new overseas investments. The storm didn't catch them off guard, they saw it coming. They even launched PR campaigns in rural areas, explaining their moves without naming Trump. Their message was clear: this wasn't about disloyalty. It was about staying in business. The silent revolt. In towns across America, the backlash was quiet, but powerful. Dealerships emptied out. Sales dropped. Farmers delayed purchases. Mechanics lost hours. Trump flags disappeared from showroom windows. The once loyal base began to question whether they could afford to keep believing. And then the prices hit. A new Deere combine rose by 25%. Ford pickup prices soared. Parts became scarcer and more expensive. Online, farmers and truck owners started sharing spreadsheets and videos documenting the fallout. Conclusion: the reckoning begins. Trump's war on globalization was never going to be easy, but it may also have been too late. His tariff threats didn't spark a manufacturing revival. They sparked an exodus. And in the heartland, the reckoning has begun, not just with Trump, but with the fragile dream of "Made in America" that many now fear was always a myth. The truth is out, the factories aren't coming back. As the dust settles on America's economic battlefield, one truth stands above the noise: the factories aren't coming back. This was never just a story about Ford or John Deere. It was about what they represented: symbols of American grit, community, and the promise that if you worked hard, you could build something lasting. Now, that promise has been quietly dismantled. And the worst part? The people paying the highest price had no say in it. Farmers were told tariffs would protect them; instead, they're drowning in costs, paying thousands more for equipment and waiting weeks for repairs because manufacturing has moved overseas. Some are losing their farms, not because they failed, but because the system failed them. Factory workers were told jobs would return. But what came back instead were pink slips, closed plants, and the cold reality that the investments are heading elsewhere: to Mexico, to India, to Vietnam. These weren't just jobs. They were livelihoods, generational careers, and anchors for entire towns. Small-town dealerships are disappearing. And with them go local jobs, schools, diners, and dreams. When a dealership closes, the dominoes fall fast. No sales, no services, no revenue. What follows is a slow economic fade-out that leaves entire communities hollowed out. The middle class, once the heartbeat of America, is vanishing, not gradually, but rapidly. Wages stagnate, costs explode, and the safety nets promised are threadbare at best. These are the people who built the American dream. Now, they're being told to retrain, res-kill, and wait. But the help never comes. This war, this economic battle waged in back rooms and through executive orders, was never about prosperity. It was about punishment. A war fought not to lift Americans up, but to lash out at companies that didn't fall in line. So who won? Not Trump. Not the corporations. And certainly not the people who believed in both. What's left is a broken bond between government, business, and the people, a shattered alliance that once defined the strength of this country. And unless something changes soon, the idea of a thriving American middle class may become just another thing we use to make here before we shipped it off somewhere cheaper. This is the true cost. Not just measured in dollars or stock charts, but in lost communities, broken families, and a future that's slipping away. If you're seeing this happen where you live, drop a comment. And if you haven't yet, subscribe.